If you're somebody like me who's just naturally been very much a go-getter, a ambitious person, somebody who's like never satisfied in life, you may or may not have this particular struggle that I'm going to talk about today. I have known that I've had this struggle like the majority of my adult life, but I feel like it had really only shown up in like my business life and also maybe like my romantic relationships. But as I'm starting to like, now that I'm kind of settled back into like a routine, I have a home, like I'm used to everything now, like in my new life here back in Dallas, like I'm starting to realize that this struggle of being like having like a very fire like they have like different like types of personalities. You have like water, you have air, you have fire. Like me having a very like fire type personality, I am starting to realize how much this has like affected everything in my life and how like I think I've mentioned before on some of like my content that a lot of the reason why I felt like I came back to Dallas was for like there was two particular reasons that I thought like okay, this is why I'm coming back to Dallas, and I very quickly was the universe told me like that's not why you're here in Dallas. And I'm starting to realize like how all of this stuff kind of comes into one. So as I mentioned, like I've always had a fire personality. I've always been like very like challenge oriented, operates very well under stress, or maybe like I operate in stress only. Like that's just like how my personality is. And now that I've kind of like settled back into my life here, or settled back into a life here, like nothing, I'm not trying to overcome like moving or getting shit situated. I'm realizing that like, okay, I don't know how to just be still and how to just be at peace and how to just be content. Like I've had chapters of it in my life. For instance, when I was living in the RV, like I will say that that probably was the most peaceful, happiest time of my life because at that point I had surrendered that I was like, I'm no longer working. Like am going to be not focused on a social life or dating or like money or anything. Like I was just totally had surrendered to being still. And like looking back on that part of my life when I had absolutely nothing, I was in the middle of nowhere, I had no way to get around, to even have a life, like, and I was so happy then. And then moving back into a busy, like very energetically heavy city, where you can do anything, like there's all this stuff to do, there's all these people, there's like always things going on. I'm starting to realize like how the reasons why I thought I was moving back to Dallas was maybe like family or work related, but I'm really realizing that like I came back to Dallas really to heal my relationship with myself, and a big part of that is learning to just be content and just to be able to be at peace and really to just be able to exist without having like any like upcoming chapter coming, or without like maybe like not being 100% satisfied with where I live or like my job or like whatever, not being 100% satisfied, but also still being like completely peaceful and content and happy and not wishing for something different. And if you're somebody who is like has this fire type energy, somebody who likes challenges, somebody who's very ambitious, like it's a blessing and a curse, maybe I would say. Or not a blessing and a curse. We have to learn how to operate and balance that in us, because it's great to be able to be somebody who's like always wanting more and always looking for growth and always looking for like to better yourself or educate yourself. Like it's great to have that piece of you, but also on the flip side, like if you're somebody that's like this, that sometimes you do envy people that they are just kind of content. They don't seek for more. They are satisfied with the life that they have. And so, I'm realizing that a big piece of me coming back to Dallas was not about family. It was not about work. It was really about my relationship with myself. And a huge piece of that is like, okay, can you learn to be peaceful, content, and blissful just as you are, regardless of like if you live in a concrete jungle, which is not ideal for me, or regardless if you live in a jungle, which would be ideal for me, you know? So I'm starting to realize like, okay, this is like what I'm supposed to be tackling right now is like learning how to operate in balance of like knowing when to go and when to have action in my life. And then also knowing when to just be still and just be content. And so today on my walk this morning, I was kind of thinking about that. I'm like, you know, my life is really, everything's kind of like situated. Like I have work, like I have my own business, like that's cool. I have like my family, I'm able to see them when I want. I'm living in an apartment that I love. I'm living in like a really great neighborhood that's like perfect for me. I'm like thinking about all of these things and I'm like, you know what? I have all of these things, but you know, I'm not like 100%, like I'm not the happiest I've ever been. I've definitely been happier in other chapters of my life, similar to like, you know, me speaking about living in the RV. Like I was so blissful and happy and just felt so good. And, you know, so I was thinking this morning, I'm like, you know, I have everything that I need, like, but I'm not 100% happy. And I caught myself starting to be like, okay, well, maybe I'll move, or maybe I need to adjust this in my life, or maybe I need to do this in my life in order for me to like achieve like happiness or to achieve being content. And I just kind of realized I'm like, you know, I have everything that I need. Like, I don't, like, there's a time for action and there's a time to be still. And as I caught myself considering, like, well, maybe I need to go travel, or maybe I need to move, or maybe I need to develop a social life, like, out here, like, I just realized I'm like, you know what? This is my objective right now in this chapter is just learning to be still and to have peace. And right now, it's like my mind is trying to convince me that right now I need to make action and I need to like do something different so I can be happier and all of that. But I'm realizing like, no, like right now I'm being called to be still and to be at peace in the stillness. And this is something I was considering today. And I know other people can relate. You know, I was having a conversation with my dad this morning as I was walking, and like we were just talking about like it's okay to just exist, and it's okay to not be like grinding and like, oh, I'm like working really hard or trying to like level up on my career or level up on my relationships or my personal life, or level up on like my physical body. Like, can I achieve these physical goals? Like we were talking about how there's just such an emphasis on action, especially in like the United States, but there's such little emphasis on just being and just existing. And I've made other videos about this, but I'm realizing how prevalent this is in my own life right now. Like as I'm realizing that everything is kind of okay, like I have everything that I need, I'm still finding my mind being like, no, like what's the next chapter looking like? And how much I've done that throughout my entire life. I have always been, what's the next chapter? What's the next chapter? Every single year, for instance, like I have lived in Dallas all of my life except for 2 different years. Like 1 year I lived in Austin, 1 year I lived in Houston, and then obviously like the year and a half that I was like kind of off traveling. But for the most part, I've lived in Dallas every year. And when I tell you, I have moved every single year that I've lived in Dallas. And that's just my nature. I'm always looking for the next chapter. Like I'm not ever somebody who just sits still. And that's something that I'm realizing that I really need to that I'm being asked to kind of like look into. So as I'm trying to navigate my life and realize, okay, like when is it important to be in action and when is it important to be still? And I will say that for me, at least, I've realized that like being in touch with myself, like meditating, journaling, spending time in nature, like being in touch with myself very deeply, I'm able to navigate like when is it time for action and when is it time to be still. Previously in my life, when I was always like distracting myself, always like spending a lot of time with other people, not very much time by myself, or maybe I was like very focused on the external, whether it be like achieving this certain thing in my business or achieving this certain thing like with my physical body. Like previously, I was very distracted by a lot of stuff and I was not tapped into myself like at all. And now that I am tapped into myself and I do spend a lot of time alone, a lot of time meditating, a lot of time journaling, a lot of time in nature, like I'm able to decipher when it's time for action and when it's time to be still. And I think the majority of people, they're not tapped into their selves. So of course it's difficult to know like when is that time for you. A lot of us are really just operating based off of like our programming, like based off of these concepts that maybe like culturally we've been like it's been ingrained in us, or maybe on a family dynamic, like maybe our families have expected certain things of us by certain ages or whatever. Like a lot of us are operating on like this programming that is not really ours, and we're not tapped into like what is best for us in this specific chapter and what we need to be doing for ourselves. And so for me right now, like I can say a couple of months ago, I like earlier this year, I was getting this strong pull that I'm like, okay, I need to make moves and I need to find a home, like I need to settle down, like all of that. I was getting a strong pull to do that. And now that I've done that, even though I'm not like 100% happy, I know right now that I'm being asked to be still. And I'm not like, I don't even have desire to travel. I really don't have that much desire to make content. I am not in this hustle grind mode that like I usually am with like work. Like I'm very much being asked to just kind of like coast and be okay with like everything the way that it is. And so I wanted to make this video because those of you guys that do struggle with like what I struggle with as far as having a very like fire personality, always trying to accomplish, always trying to achieve, like I just want to invite you guys that it is okay to flip the script and just be like, hey, you know, for this chapter, this next month, this next 3 months, this next 6 months, this month, this next year, like it is okay to just decide to be like, you know what? I want to try to see what it feels like to just exist. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those of you that have like a very fire personality, very goal-oriented personality, I know I can speak for me, like we struggle so much. We feel guilt, we feel shame, we feel like just gross, honestly, when we're just feeling like we're stagnant and we're not doing something. And I just want to invite you guys that are like experience this, that it is okay to decide that you're going to have a chapter like that in your life. Honestly, I'm a firm believer in everything needs to have some sort of balance in our lives. And like the only way to start to create some sort of balance within ourselves, if we do have a very fire personality, is to also find more of a balance with like more of like the water, the flow, like that type of energy in our lives, so that we can create and harmonize some sort of like equal balance between the two. I definitely don't think that it's great to be all one or all another. It's like a quick way to deplete all of your energy and end up empty and disconnected from yourself. So I just wanted to make this video for those of you that find yourself as a goal-oriented person. Like, have you taken a chapter of your life lately to just simply exist, not be looking for a new job, not be looking to perfect your body like any more than it already is, not to be like trying to achieve a perfect relationship or try to save money to go on a vacation, you know, like I want to invite you guys that find yourself in this like very go-getter attitude. Like, can you just take a chapter to just simply be? Even if everything is not 100% perfect, even if you're not 100% happy, like, can you just exist and just simply be at peace? So this is a chapter I'm in right now. I want to know in the comments, like, do you find yourself having more of like a fire personality or more of like an air or water personality? And depending on which one you find yourself, like, are you like, what are you doing to find balance in all of the different elements that we have in our energies and our personalities? Like, I want to know what you're doing to balance that out, because I know for me, although I operate very much on like a fire, high stress, like very challenge goal oriented person, although I operate like that naturally, I can see how it's like completely affected a lot of stuff in my life and has led to burnout or me not being able to achieve the person that I wanted ultimately to be. So I want to know what you guys are doing, what you've experienced, because this is kind of in my practice right now, is just to try to just be. I'll see you guys in the next video.